Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Days are breaking in my soul. Oh, where are our dear fathers? Oh, where are our dear fathers? Some are down in the valley praying. Days are breaking in my soul. Oh, where are our dear mothers? Oh, where are our dear mothers? They have gone to heaven, shouting, shouting, shouting. Days are breaking in my soul. Bright morning stars, the stars are rising, rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Days are breaking. Days are breaking. Days are breaking in my soul.
Good morning and welcome to our Sunday service. I'm Roger Jones, one of the ministers at UUSS, and I'm glad you're here. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all of you, fathers or otherwise, who nurture, nourish, mentor, lead, and support others in your lives. And happy Juneteenth and happy summer solstice. At UUSS, our mission statement says, we come together to deepen our lives and be a force for healing in the world. There is a lot going on at this congregation right now, with an increasing number of activities happening here on site on our campus. To read about all those things and to read an update on our move toward services that would be held in person, in addition to being streamed online, please read our weekly message email, which comes out on Fridays. It came out last Friday, and you can find it on our website, and you can subscribe to future emails there at uuss.org. We're grateful that so many people have begun visiting us on Zoom over these pandemic months. And if you're one of those visitors, we hope that you will fill out a newcomer's card online so that we can send you information about our programs. And you can find that at uuss.org/newcomers. Our official greeter today is Judy Lane. So if you are new and you type the words "I'm new" in the chat, then Judy will reach out to you with a private message to give you a personal welcome to our congregation. Thanks for doing that, Judy. After 16 months of presenting special midweek services every Tuesday night, we will conclude the Vesper services. We'll do that this Tuesday with a farewell service. So join us Tuesday in this space at 7 to remember, appreciate, and celebrate that ministry. Every Wednesday night, we host a conversation on a series of rotating topics. We call it Wellspring Wednesday. And this is the week we call Exploring Unitarian Universalism. So join Reverend Lucy for a talk about UU history, including history of this congregation. 7 o'clock in this Zoom space. Today, we will be posting or inviting you to post your joys and sorrows later in the service. So don't think it's been forgotten. It will happen later in the service. And at the end of the service, we invite you to hang around for Coffee Hub, which basically means by the magic of Zoom, we will be divided into breakout rooms, smaller groups for conversation and getting acquainted. There will be two 10-minute sessions in the Coffee Hub, and so we invite you to stay. Today, we have special music by a couple of our members, actually by a lot of our members. We have Kenji Ota, and we have Ross Hammond, and we have our UUSS choir in a piece they did for us in the sanctuary in 2019. And we also have today with us our worship associate, Jed Shapiro, and our technical wizards, Dirk Toole and Ivan Caballero. And we have our guest preacher, whom I'm happy to introduce to you. And that's my friend, the Reverend James Galasinski of our church in Canton, New York. Good morning, James.
Good morning, and it's afternoon here.
Oh, good afternoon. Thanks for staying awake so you can preach for us today. So James is way up in New York State in Canton, the closest congregation to the Canadian capital city of Ottawa. So they're way up there, very cold. In fact, their snow just melted last Tuesday. And James is serving in the church that our departed minister emeritus Theodore Webb served back early in his ministry, long before Ted came to California. And Christine Webb Curtis, one of our members, remembers growing up in the parsonage there in Canton. James is a native of Milwaukee, which is where General Assembly would be this year if it were not online. James is a graduate of Cardinal Stritch University, where he majored in jazz studies. And that sounds like he listened to records all the time, but he also plays the upright bass. So he did learn something in college. And then he went on to theological school at Meadville Lombard Theological School in Chicago, my alma mater, one of our UU seminaries, about 20 years after I was there, but he could still feel the vibe of my presence. And James and I became friends while attending GA in person. And he preached for us a year ago on Father's Day. And very happy that we're exchanging pulpits. I will be getting up very early in the morning at the end of August to preach in Canton on Zoom. James is married to Ulrika, and they have two kids, Miles and Oscar. Miles is 6 and Oscar is 2. So thank you. And next we have Jed Shapiro, our worship associate, for our chalice lighting. Good morning, Jed.
Good morning, Roger. As we prepare for today's chalice lighting to celebrate at home, please get your chalice or candle ready as words of chalice lighting are spoken. This morning, we light our chalice for fathers and for fatherhood, written by Reverend Peter Fredericks. For sleepless nights awaiting the curfew breakers, for anxious hours as a driving instructor, for hours spent on the sidelines cheering and watching school plays, sometimes resting our eyes, for the pressures of breadwinning and wait till your father gets home, for teaching moments and mentoring moments, for making up answers when you just don't know, but are expected to because you know everything, for scrapes and boo-boo kisses and band-aids, for hugs and kisses and silliness and play, for bedtime stories and early morning ice time, for all the aftershave and ties received as gifts, for handing over the car keys and waves goodbye, for father-daughter wedding dances and cradling grandchildren for the first time, for all the moments and all the meaning in the role of a lifetime. We light our chalice for fathers and for fatherhood.
Our opening hymn is Find a Stillness, which is in our hymnal. It's a Transylvanian Unitarian hymn tune. So enjoy our opening hymn.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
I invite you now into the practice of meditation. From your living rooms, from your outdoor patios, wherever you are in your offices, I invite you to take a long, deep breath. Return again to the silence that is within you. Sense the guiding wind that points to new life. Feel the ground that holds us up. Experience the mystery we all move through, and be enveloped by the love we aim to grow into. Let us accept the grief that is in front of us and take another deep breath. Let that breath ground you, knowing within it is the sacredness of life, the one wild and precious life we're all blessed to share. So come now, everyone is called now into a shared silence of sacred space that we have created together. So we'll just take a moment of silence. So may it be. Please join me in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, God of many names and no name, in front of us is a great unknown. Help us transition into a spirit of grace and compassion Give us the strength to face all our challenges with authenticity. We especially think of those who are triggered and traumatized by the pandemic, and those of us who face health instability in body, mind, and spirit. Today, we have a special gratitude for fathers and for all the others who have fathered and mentored and nourished us. We are also in gratitude for the simple, giddy joy of possibly getting together in person sometime soon, and forever grateful, of course, for those who have worked tirelessly to create vaccines, those who care for us, and develop treatments for what ails us. May we celebrate Juneteenth Day yesterday and with joy, but with also solemnness, recognizing our nation's past of slavery and how systemic racism of the present still sticks with us. We lift up all these thoughts and say together, Amen.
Generosity is a spiritual practice. Your gifts given in the spirit of generosity support the life and work of this community, and the work of our community includes reaching out to others in need. Every month, we give half of the Sunday offering to a local not-for-profit organization working with us to help heal the world. Our community partner for June is Weave. Weave promotes safe and healthy relationships and supports survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, and sex trafficking. 1 in 3 women experience domestic violence. 15% of domestic violence victims are male. Teens 16 to 19 years old are the most likely to be sexually assaulted. WEAVE is an acronym. When everyone acts, violence ends. There are many ways to contribute this morning: by text, UUSS website, by credit card, and by mail, as you'll see on the slide. We'll also post these options in the chat. Thank you for your generosity.
Thank you, Jed. And yes, thank you for your support of the shared offering. Now join with me in saying the unison words in response to our offering. May the spirit of gratitude bless and multiply all that we have, all that we give, and all that we receive. And James will offer a time for all ages, after which we will have an offering of music by our member Ross Hammond. And then James will offer a reading, and then we will have more music by our member Kenji Ota.
This is a story I've adapted called Rabbit Looks for God by the Reverend Kelly Weissman Asperuth Jackson. So one day, a rabbit set out from the woods carrying a question to all the other creatures that it met. The rabbit first came to a butterfly fluttering in an open field, and asked, "Friend butterfly, what can you tell me about the thing called God?" The butterfly thought for a moment and said, "God is the guiding wind that blows me from this field to that one and points me to where the weather is warm, and I can help the flowers bloom by flying from one to another." "Well, thank you, friend butterfly. I'm going to continue hopping along on my journey." So the rabbit came to a horse who was grazing at the other end of the field, and the rabbit hopped over and asked, "Friend horse, what can you tell me about this thing called God?" And the horse looked at the rabbit, still chewing away at sweet grass, and said, "Well, God is the ground that holds me up, gives folks an open field to walk and run against, and all this lovely grass to eat." "Oh, well, thank you, friend horse. I'm going to hop further onward now." So a little while down the road, Rabbit came to a slow running stream and peeked over the bank and saw a fish. The rabbit dipped its mouth into the water and asked, friend fish, what can you tell me about this thing called God?" And the rabbit put its head back up and then put an ear into the water to listen for the answer. "Well, God is the water I swim in. It surrounds me all the time and gives me something to breathe and move through. It's something that everyone needs to live." "Thank you, friend fish," the rabbit said. "I'm going to keep bouncing along." And very soon, the rabbit kept going along and ran into a tree. Craning its head upward, it looked towards the very topmost of the branches, and the rabbit asked friend tree, "What can you tell me about this thing called God?" And tree answered very slowly, like some trees do, and said, "God is the sun that feeds me and all my neighbors and family. I spend all of my days reaching upwards towards it and encouraging the shorter trees to do the same." "Well, thank you, friend tree." And seeing that it was getting late, Rabbit set off to go back home for the night. Now, as the rabbit was approaching its den, its neighbor, Bird, came out and said, and sang, "Friend rabbit, after your day of asking the same question over and over, what can you tell me about the thing called God?" Well, the rabbit thought for a very long time and then said, "Well, what I can tell you is that the butterfly cares deeply for the flowers. The horse wants everyone to have open fields to roam on, and the fish knows everyone needs water to live, and the tree hopes its children will grow as tall as it has grown." And then the rabbit went down into its burrow, and they started to contemplate what God meant to them. This ends our Time for All Ages.
Hey, happy Father's Day, everybody. I'm gonna play you guys a tune that I used to play Lola when she was a baby, and I was a new dad. That was like 11 years ago now, so I'm gonna dust this song off and play it for you guys. So enjoy the day, enjoy the holiday, and I'll see you soon.
Our reading today comes from the book entitled The Parents Tao Te Ching, chapter 72, written by William Martin. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient Chinese text, and William Martin has adapted this ancient wisdom to wisdom for contemporary parents. Do not try to teach religion to your children. Teach them instead to marvel at the wonder of life in all its manifestations. A natural spirituality will be born and grow within their hearts. Trying to teach religion creates dependence upon the words of others. If your children depend upon their own experience, they will never go astray.
Good morning. Today I'm playing Josephine's Waltz, written by Roger Talroth, to commemorate his niece's baptism.
Good morning once again. It's great to be with you all. I grew up in the upper Midwest prairie known as Wisconsin, but I had an uncle in California who I rarely saw growing up. But when I was in my teens, he came to visit. He pulled me aside and he asked me if I was serious about religion and spirituality. When I said I was, he told me about this retreat he had just went on. It was led by a rabbi, a Catholic priest, and a Protestant minister who led it. He described the experience as something beyond the goose pimples. He was so excited about it, I got goosebumps myself. He said if he could do it all over again, he would have become a Catholic priest. Weeks later, I received a book in the mail from him, a biography on the Trappist monk, Thomas Merton. I ended up reading much of Merton's work and actually visited his grave at the Abbey of Gethsemane in Kentucky. My uncle's tale of feeling the Spirit and sending me a book made me aware of an intentional and felt spiritual life. In the book, The Spiritual Child, the New Science on Parenting for Health and Lifelong Thriving, psychologist Lisa Miller's research shows that youth that develop an authentic spiritual life are less likely to engage in risky behavior like unprotected sex and reckless driving, abuse drugs, and get depressed. Now, I always knew there were benefits to the spiritual life. I knew it made me a better person and made me happier, but I did not know you could quantify it. So our spiritual lives do matter, and how we nourish the next generation will and does matter. In some cases, it can be a matter of life and death. We nourish and cultivate our children and youth in many ways, and not just ministers and DREs that do it, but parents, grandparents, godparents, aunts, uncles, mentors, really all of us take some responsibility for raising up our community's children and youth. But from our reading, it states, do not try to teach religion to your children. Aren't we supposed to be teaching religion here? The basement of this building that I'm in is committed to doing just that. However, religion as a set of principles and rules is not what we want to pass on to our children. Instead, we should be nourishing a natural spirituality, a quality of experience that is native in all of us. According to Miller, starting as early as ages 4 or 5, children can have moments of transcendent experience. Sometimes, they are subtle moments of insight and stillness that make it feel like you are on the right path. I tried to articulate one of these experiences to a friend when I was in my late teens, and he understood what I was talking about and had them himself. And I remember talking with him and we experienced something spiritual together. So the earth and all the natural processes of life provide us with plenty of awe, reverence, and a sense of worship. We do not need some supernatural realm outside of our ordinary lives. We've evolved very naturally to be religious and spiritual. It is a natural longing most of us have in some shape or form. So natural spirituality is located in the interior. It is mysterious, and it feels like it goes beyond the self, and all have access to it. So our religious community should be in the business of making the spiritual come to the forefront of our lives. If we want to teach natural spirituality, we need to start with experience. Now, if I want to teach my son about basketball, am I going to start out telling him that a basketball hoop is 10 feet high? No. Am I going to start by telling him a court is 94 feet long by 50 feet? No. Will I explain the history of basketball to him? Explain what traveling is? Explain what a foul is? No. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring out a basketball and I'm going to shoot some hoops with him. I'm going to play with him. Maybe I'll show him a video of Giannis Antetokounmpo dunking on someone. He's my favorite player from the Milwaukee Bucks. They won last night. I want to offer up my son experience. If he likes it, maybe I'll show him some more moves, do some dribbling, etc., etc. I also need to play basketball myself. Now, I can speak about the game of basketball, but it is nothing without a ball and the joy of playing it. I can speak about life, but it is never life itself. And I can speak about spirituality, but it is never spirit. So in teaching natural spirituality, we guide them into moments of marvel in all the different manifestations of life, encouraging a natural spirituality that is felt in the heart is exactly what we try to do in our RE programs. And that, everyone, that's the good news of our faith. We do not make our children dependent on others' words, but instead dependent on their own inner experience. If your church was anything like in Canton, our RE programs over the past 15 months have been all over the place. And that is fine. We're learning and growing and improvising. But one thing we have to realize that it's not just DREs and ministers that are instilling spirituality into our children. In the first decade of life, parents and other main caregivers are the child's universe. And a child's sense of spirituality might be just bound up with the parents. So if you were loved unconditionally, you are definitely more likely to think of God as love. If we saw our parents as peaceful, we might see the ultimate as peace. Of course, if we saw our fathers angry, we might see the divine as angry and disapproving as well. Fortunately, those of us who have or had parents that for whatever reason could not love us unconditionally, we may be drawn to a loving grandparent, a youth minister, a teacher, or a mentor, while other youth who did not experience the parental field of love might skip projection and directly relate to the wall or screen of spiritual experience and be ultimately grasped by it. Many times life has a way of healing itself. Parents and main caregivers can be godlike creatures to children, and thus they have the ability to set the table for a feast of spiritual experiences. First and foremost comes that simple act of loving the child unconditionally. In fact, it is loving children in a non-possessive way that turns out to be the best way to instill spirituality. In so much of our culture, family has turned into a breeding ground for skills and competition, shuttling kids around to get extra lessons and to lacrosse tournaments. We are pushing our kids to do more and more, yet our spirits are asking us to do less and less. Instead of more activities, we should be building what Lisa Miller refers to as a field of love. So from the earliest ages, it is the parents and the main caregivers that create this field of love. Family is sacred in and of itself. And as children grow and mature, that field of love expands a little bit and grows into the extended family. And as this field of love keeps expanding, developmentally, they need a larger extension. And that is where we come in. A faith community like this becomes an important developmental step. Being part of a faith community says the universe is a place full of love and compassion. See these trusted people? There are other people pursuing the spiritual life like us with our same values. Together, we are laying the groundwork for spiritual lives by participating with them in spiritual practices, bringing them to church, going into nature, and noticing beauty together. And we are normalizing the experience of being grasped by spirit. Now, as I sort of alluded to before, over the past 15 months, I mean, if your congregation is anything like mine, it was a different kind of RE experience than in the past. But yet I'm very proud of our RE committee and staff and the effort they put forth and creativity in the moment. My family got sent a monthly bag with RE home activities. And I must say, this really challenged me as a parent and got me to realize the importance of my own role in my children's spirituality. So as mentors, ministers, and models, our children need to find in us a sincere celebration of who we are. They will then return eventually to their own natural joy and natural spirituality in themselves. They learn the art of happiness, contentment, and peace from us. If we want them to play basketball, we must play basketball ourselves. If we want our children to be happy, we must be happy ourselves. If we want our children to be content, we must be content ourselves. If we want our children to be peaceful, we must be peaceful ourselves. And if we want them to be spiritual, which has tremendous health and well-being benefits, then we must also be spiritual ourselves. We spiritually nourish our children by keeping ourselves nourished. It's a vicious cycle. Our spiritual journeys must continue then. And when appropriate, we must tell our personal stories like my uncle did to me. So take that inner quest, consult with your higher self, be connected to the universe, perform acts of service, form deep connections with each other, develop a spiritual practice that makes your life whole, ponder the big questions. These simple but difficult things, I think, are the roads that lead to happiness and to a fulfilled life for ourselves and for our children. Amen, and blessed be.
Amen. Thank you, James. Thank you. That was very engaging. Wonderful. This is an opportunity now for sharing our joys and sorrows, our prayers, our hopes, our spiritual experiences with one another. We do that using the chat. So if you click on the chat icon, you can post your joy, sorrow, announcement about life, and make sure it's going to everyone so everyone can read it. And if you'd like to read what others post, if you click on that icon, then a scroll will open up so you can read what's posted. And we will enjoy music as we post for the next couple minutes. And that is by our friend Leah Morris singing Lifted in Love. It's a song written by Carl Karush and Leah Morris.
We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the birds, they tell us. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us. We're here to be lifted in love, to listen to love as a flower raises its face to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the sky, it tells us. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us. We're here to be lifted in love, to listen to love as the children raise all their faces to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the seas, they tell us. We're here to be lifted in love, to listen to love as the flower raises its face to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love.
Oh, it's me, isn't it? Our closing hymn. Sorry. Our closing hymn is number 1007 from the Teal Songbook. It's There's a River Flowing in My Soul. And it was written by Faya Rose Touré, who was the first Black woman judge in Alabama. She is a civil rights attorney, litigator, and activist. And we will hear this sung by Jennifer McMillan of the Westwood Unitarian Congregation in Edmonton, Alberta.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing
May love bless you and keep you. May hope shine upon you and life be gracious to you. May the mystery of which we are all a part connect you and give you peace.
And as we extinguish our chalice flames, we take with us the light of truth seeking and the warmth of love shared and the fire of commitment in our actions one day at a time until we are together again.